Halloween has always been a big deal among my friends, and this year was no exception. My buddy Kevin had gone all out, turning his apartment into a haunted mansion. Cobwebs, skeletons, flickering lights, the works. But the showstopper? A massive bowl of punch glowing an eerie green under a black light. I showed up at the party dressed as Wonder Woman, complete with a tiara and a golden lasso. The place was buzzing, filled with the scent of fake blood and the sound of laughter. I grabbed a cup of the infamous punch and started mingling, catching up with friends I hadn't seen in a while. The night kicked off great, but then something odd happened. About an hour in, people started acting bizarre. My usually shy friend Rachel was dancing on a table, singing Thriller at the top of her lungs. Tony, who can't even handle horror trailers, was passionately debating zombie apocalypse survival strategies. And Kevin? The host was MIA. I searched the apartment and finally found him in the kitchen, frantically scrolling through his phone. "Kevin, what's happening? People are acting like they're on something," I said, growing increasingly concerned. His face was ashen. "I think someone spiked the punch." My stomach dropped. "With what?" "I don't know, but I'm trying to find out. This is really bad." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the living room. We rushed out to find Rachel in the middle of a shattered glass coffee table, still dancing, completely unaware of the chaos around her. "We need to get a handle on this," Kevin said, panic creeping into his voice. We split up. Kevin would try to identify the substance in the punch while I tried to manage the unfolding madness. I navigated through increasingly strange behaviors, confiscating car keys, breaking up heated arguments, and even starting a game of charades to divert attention from the craziness. Meanwhile, Kevin had made a discovery. "It's some kind of hallucinogen, an experimental substance. I found a vial hidden behind the punch bowl." "We have to call for help," I said, my mind racing. Within minutes, paramedics and police flooded the apartment. Friends were taken to the hospital, and the substance was sent for testing. The culprit? A guy named Mike, a chemistry major with a twisted sense of humor. He was arrested and faced multiple charges, his future in shambles. The aftermath was a whirlwind of hospital visits, legal issues, and strained friendships. Some laughed it off as just a wild night, but others were deeply affected by the experience. As for me, it left me with a newfound sense of responsibility and a vow to never let anything like that happen again. But the biggest lesson of all, always, always know what's in the punch.
It was Halloween night, and I was buzzing from the energy of the campus party. The air was crisp, and the moon was full, perfect for a spooky night. I was dressed as a witch, complete with a pointy hat and a broomstick. My friends wanted to go to another party, but I had an early class the next day. So I decided to head back to my dorm. "Take the long way around, it's Halloween," my friend Sarah warned me. "Nah, I'll be fine," I said, dismissing her concern. "The woods are just trees and squirrels, right?" I entered the Whispering Woods, the infamous shortcut back to the dorms. The trees seemed to close in behind me, their branches like skeletal fingers against the moonlight. I laughed nervously. "Come on, it's just your imagination." That's when I heard it, a soft rustling behind me. I turned around. Nothing, just shadows and trees. I picked up my pace, telling myself it was just a raccoon or something. Then a twig snapped, loud and clear. My heart raced as I broke into a sprint. I could hear footsteps now, matching my own but getting closer. I dared not look back. Every horror movie I'd ever seen screamed in my head, "Don't look back!" I reached a fork in the path, left or right. My gut said left, so I darted that way, nearly tripping over my own feet. I hid behind a large tree, holding my breath. The footsteps slowed, then stopped. I peeked from behind the tree. A figure stood at the fork, dressed in a dark cloak, face hidden under a hood. It looked left, then right, and then... It sniffed the air as if it could smell my fear. My phone buzzed. A text. The figure turned its head sharply towards my hiding spot. My heart sank. I had been found. Summoning every ounce of courage, I burst from my hiding spot and sprinted like my life depended on it. Because it did. The figure gave chase, but I was too fast, too fueled by adrenaline. I saw the exit of the woods. the lights of the dorms like a beacon in the night. I burst out of the woods, not stopping until I was inside my dorm. Door locked behind me. I never took the shortcut through Whispering Woods again. And every Halloween, I can't help but wonder, what was it that stalked me that night? And what would have happened if it had caught me?
Halloween night, and the atmosphere was electric. My friends and I decided to up the ante this year. No more trick or treating or lame haunted houses. We were going to contact the spirit world. "Are you sure about this?" Jenny asked, her eyes wide as saucers. "Come on, it's just a game," I reassured her, though I wasn't so sure myself. We sat in a circle in my dimly lit basement, the Ouija board at the center. Candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I could feel the tension in the room. It was palpable. "Who wants to ask the first question?" I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I'll do it," Mark volunteered. "Is there anyone here with us?" We all placed our hands on the planchette, and it started to move. Slowly at first, then gaining speed, it spelled out, "YES." A collective gasp filled the room. "Okay, this is freaky," Jenny muttered. "Ask it something else," I urged Mark. "What's your name?" he asked. The planchette moved again, spelling out MALEVO. Before it could finish, the candles blew out, plunging us into darkness. "What the heck just happened?" Jenny screamed. I fumbled for my phone to turn on the flashlight. When the light pierced the darkness, we saw it. The planchette was moving on its own, completing the name. LENT. "Malevolent," I read out loud, my voice trembling. A guttural growl echoed through the basement, and the room temperature dropped. We could see our breaths in the air. Something was here with us, and it was not friendly. "Quick, say goodbye to end the session," Mark shouted. We all placed our hands back on the planchette and forced it to move to goodbye. The moment it touched the word, the candles flickered back to life. We sat there, stunned, not daring to speak. Whatever we had summoned, we had narrowly escaped its clutches. From that night on, the Ouija board was locked away, never to be touched again. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the basement, I swear I can hear that guttural growl, reminding me that some doors are better left unopened.
Halloween had always been my favorite holiday, and this year was no different. My friends and I were stoked when we heard about the annual Halloween scavenger hunt organized by our college. The grand prize? $1,000. That's a lot of pizza and beer. The hunt was set to begin at 9 p.m., and we gathered at the campus square, our excitement palpable. The organizer handed each team an envelope. "Inside, you'll find your first clue. Solve it, and it'll lead you to the next one. First team to finish wins. Good luck." We ripped open the envelope and read the clue. "Where knowledge is stored, but no one's aboard." "The library," Erica exclaimed. We dashed off, our footsteps echoing in the empty night. We reached the library and found another envelope tucked between the pages of an Edgar Allan Poe book. The clue read, "A place of rest, but not for the best." "The cemetery," Kyle said, his voice tinged with apprehension. We arrived at the cemetery, our flashlights cutting through the fog. The next clue was attached to a tombstone, "Where water flows, but time slows." "The old watermill," Jen said, her eyes wide with excitement. We reached the watermill and found the next clue hanging from the wheel, "Where justice is served, but often swerved." "The courthouse," I said, now fully engrossed in the game. We arrived at the courthouse to find it eerily quiet. The next clue was taped to the judge's chair, "Where lives are lost and at great cost." "The hospital," Erica whispered, her excitement now replaced by unease. We reached the hospital, and that's when things took a dark turn. The clue was attached to a gurney in the emergency room, "Where secrets are kept and many have wept." "Is it talking about the police station?" Kyle wondered. "No," I said, my gut feeling taking over. "It's the old asylum on Willow Street." We arrived at the decrepit building, its windows like hollow eyes staring into our souls. The final clue was nailed to the door, "Where you stand, so does the end." Confused, we entered the building. Our flashlights revealed peeling paint and broken furniture, and then we saw it, a room with police tape across the door. Curiosity getting the better of us, we stepped inside. What we found was a crime scene, blood splattered on the walls, and photos pinned to a board. Photos of us. We heard footsteps behind us and turned around to see the organizer, his face twisted into a malevolent grin. "Congratulations," he said, pulling out a knife. "You've reached the end of the hunt." We screamed and bolted, our hearts pounding in our chests. We split up, dodging through the maze-like corridors. I found a window and smashed it open, climbing out and running as fast as I could, not stopping until I reached the campus police station. It turns out the organizer was a former student expelled for stalking. He'd planned the scavenger hunt as a twisted game of his own. He was arrested, but the horror of that night stays with me. The clues, the locations, they were all pieces of his deranged puzzle, leading us to a real-life nightmare. I still celebrate Halloween, but I've never participated in a scavenger hunt again. Some games are just too dangerous to play.
Halloween was in full swing, and the entire town was buzzing with excitement. My friends and I had been eagerly awaiting the annual haunted hayride for weeks. Hosted at a sprawling farm on the outskirts of town, it was a local tradition that promised a night of thrills and chills. What could possibly go wrong? We arrived at the venue just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the fields. Tickets in hand, we joined the queue, our excitement reaching a fever pitch. Finally, it was our turn. We climbed onto the hay wagon, settling into the straw bales as the tractor roared to life. The ride began, and we were soon swallowed by the darkness of the woods. The first few scenes were standard Halloween fare. Zombies crawling out of graves, witches cackling over cauldrons, and skeletons dancing to ghostly tunes. We laughed and screamed, fully immersed in the experience. But then, the ride took an unsettling turn. We entered a section of the woods that was pitch black, the only light coming from the dim lanterns hanging from the wagon. The atmosphere shifted. It felt oppressive, as if we were being watched. Is it just me? Or did it get super creepy all of a sudden? Emily whispered. Before anyone could answer, the tractor came to an abrupt halt. The driver, a burly man in a flannel shirt, jumped off and walked towards the back of the wagon. Sorry, folks. Looks like we've got a flat tire. Gonna take a few minutes to fix it, he announced. We sat there, uneasy, the darkness closing in on us. That's when I noticed that Alex was missing. Hey, where's Alex? I asked, my voice tinged with panic. We looked around, shining our phone flashlights on the empty bales of hay. He was nowhere to be found. Maybe he jumped off to play a prank, Lisa suggested, though her voice wavered. Just then, we heard rustling in the bushes, followed by a blood-curdling scream. It was unmistakably Alex's voice, filled with sheer terror. Something's wrong, we need to find him, I declared, jumping off the wagon. Ignoring the driver's protests, we ventured into the woods, our flashlights cutting through the inky darkness. We followed the sound of Alex's screams, our hearts pounding with fear. We reached a clearing and found Alex, or what was left of him. He was tied to a tree, his eyes wide with horror, his mouth gagged. Surrounding him were figures in dark robes, their faces obscured by masks. "We've been waiting for you," one of them said, stepping forward. It was the driver of the hayride. "Welcoming to the Rail Haunted Hayride," he sneered, pulling out a knife. Adrenaline surging, I lunged at him, knocking the knife from his hand. Emily and Lisa quickly undid Alex, who was shaking uncontrollably. "We need to get out of here," I urged, my voice trembling. We ran back to the wagon only to find it empty. The other passengers had vanished. "We need to call the police," Emily said, her hand shaking as she dialed 911. Within minutes, the woods were swarming down with police officers. They arrested the driver and his accomplices, who turned out to be members of a cult using the haunted hayride as a cover for their dark rituals. As for use, we were traumatized but alive, forever haunted by the night that blurred the line between fiction and reality. I still celebrate Halloween, but haunted hayrides are permanently off my list. Some nightmares are just too real to forget.